A big hello and a very warm welcome to a special mentorship mini-series called Starting Up with Ronnie Screwvala. In the last few years, we've seen India take giant strides when one talks of entrepreneurship. In fact, every leading newspaper today cannot afford not to cover this community. Starting up today is in vogue, unlike, let's say, a decade ago, when most people would have thought that you're starting up just because you're not qualified enough to get a job. And while the scenario is truly encouraging, we're also surrounded by a lot of people who are unsure, apprehensive, fearful, and a little underconfident to walk out of their jobs and build something of their own. But for those who have been brave enough to do so, the journey still seems long and daunting. So this is really ET Now's endeavor to not only celebrate the individuals who have managed to get out of their comfort zones, but also provide them a platform where they can interact, question, and be mentored by one of India's most celebrated entrepreneurs who's been there and done that not once but several times over. I'm talking about none other than Ronnie Screwvala. Now, Ronnie Screwvala is a man who really needs no introduction. His entrepreneurial journey is an inspiration, to say the least. Founder of one of India's largest media and entertainment conglomerates, UTV, Ronnie Screwvala's journey pans from cable TV to toothbrush manufacturing, from theatre to media and entertainment. So who better than Ronnie Screwvala to address and mentor individuals who have embarked on their entrepreneurial journey? Thank you so much for joining us, Ronnie. Truly a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we're also joined by three dynamic men: Siddharth Pandey, founder of Lele Sports; Sahil Dharia, founder of Soothe Healthcare; and Hitesh Bhagia, co-founder of HomeVeda. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. Truly a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali. Lovely being here.
And with that, let me put the spotlight on our first entrepreneur, Siddharth Pandey of Lele Sports. But before, Siddharth, I hand it over to you. Let's take a look at Siddharth's backstory and his journey, really, before he founded Lele Sports. Let's play the AV.
Hi, I'm Siddharth Pandey. I'm 33. I grew up in Delhi. I went to school and college in DPS and SRCC respectively. Following college, I moved to Bombay, where I worked for 2 years with an international youth leadership organization. After Bombay, I moved to Sydney to work with Electrolux, and I was there for 6 years. The beauty of working in Australia was that I got a chance to rediscover my love for sports. And other than just getting back to playing sports regularly, Australia gave me a lot of time to think about what was important to me in life. And it came down to these 4 words: India, sports, business, lifestyle. And thus, with an initial investment of 1 lakh rupees, I founded Lele Sports.
Well, now that we know Siddharth's backstory, it's really over to you, Siddharth. Give us briefly an overview of what Lele Sports is all about.
Sure. So every business derives its value from the problems it solves. In India, people want to play sport, but there are a number of problems they face. Time nahi milta, jagah nahi milti, khelne ko nahi milta, it's too difficult to organize. Lele Sports, the company offers a one-stop solution to all of that. As a player, all you have to do is turn up, and we will take care of everything else.
The first question on to you before you ask me and share with us your challenges. Where's your focus area? Which sport, if any, is your focus area? Or is it a jack of all trades in one aspect? And the second one, where you kind of said, come to us and then we'll take care of everything. But then you went on to corporates and said, so is it a more B2C model or B2B model? I'm not getting a full clarity of sense for you.
So very good question, Ronnie. Thanks. We actually did the tougher thing first, which is get disparate groups of individuals to come together and play. We go across the board. We started with 25 to 45. So in the first 2 years, we were focusing on adult recreational.
And the point is the person has to be trained. He has to come trained. You're not training him. You're just letting him play a sport.
Yes, we are giving him a platform to play.
To play a sport. So your first challenge.
Yeah. So we've been able to bring the business to a certain stage. A certain amount of it is autopilot. Initially, there was just me, then we built a couple of others in the founding team, then we have a managerial level, and now the business has got to a certain degree of autopilot, and we've witnessed steady growth up until now.
So what's the challenge?
The challenge is how do we scale this and take it to exponential growth to the
Yeah.
next level?
Well, firstly, I don't think you should use the word autopilot as often as you used it right now.
Sure.
Is my first recommendation, because then you're kind of your mindset is one of complacency in the first place. I think what you meant is operationally people come, I know exactly what to do with them, and that's what you meant by that. But I'm saying watch out for that as an overall terminology within your organization.
Sure.
What's the geography that you're operating in right now?
We're primarily based in the Delhi NCR. We have piloted in Bombay and Bangalore, and this year we are doing a couple of.
And what do you define as scale? What do you want to be 3 years from now? What do you want to be 1 year from now? Because you've already been in operation for 3 years.
Yeah.
So what is scale for you?
So we say in 5 years we want to be a 100 crore company, and the single biggest value we bring is give you a platform to play. People in India.
My
want to
fundamental issue on that is that what is the need you think you're actually fulfilling for a person in India, where A, sports is still very undernourished and the perception on that is low, except maybe a little bit for cricket. Now kabaddi and football are picking up to a certain extent. B, the value for playing for it, are you giving it because there isn't enough of public grounds for people to play, or they don't know who to play with? What is this? What is the function you're serving for the community?
It's what I said. The problems they face are spaces, people to play with, and just the hassle of getting a game together. So we get a lot of people there willing to pay us fair price just for not having to have the issues they currently face in just getting a game.
So I think firstly, it's not about, everyone has this 1,000 crore club, 100 crore club, $1 billion value club. We need to get out of that thought process. I think you need to first figure out what is the need you're serving. I think there needs, in my opinion, there needs to be a further fine tuning of the actual need you're serving for the community that you're serving to. It sounds transient. It sounds impulsive. It sounds nice. It's not a need to do. It's not something that drags me there. It sounds like, okay, you're fulfilling a convenience. Okay, there's a place and a venue, so I can go to that. My comfort zone is increasing. I don't think you're going to build a very stable company or a very scalable company with that promise. But the potential of what you've got is high, because to that extent, yes, it is a challenge for two things. One, to get a community together in sports. You're creating your own community of people, and you're creating an infrastructure for them to play in. So that, I think, is not the foundations of. You'll need to spend with your team a little bit more deeper to figure out what that product is and how do you fine-tune it. Second, I would suggest that you're not going to get to scale unless you build stability. So I'm saying forget about your scale like this. Think of how will you grow to the next level and solidify it.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie. Food for thought. I'll take some inputs back.
But great, thank you.
Well, on that note, that was Siddharth Pandey from Lele Sports talking to Ronnie Screwvala, and really that was the mentoring session you saw. It's time for a short break, but coming up, we have two very dynamic entrepreneurs who are going to talk about their startups, and Ronnie, of course, is going to address some of the challenges they're facing in their startup. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Starting Up with Ronnie Screwvala. And now it's time to turn the spotlight onto the second entrepreneur. And for him to take center stage, that's Sahil Dharia, founder of Soothe Healthcare. But before I throw it to you, Sahil, let's just take a look at Sahil's backstory and what he did before he founded Soothe Healthcare.
Hi, I'm Sahil Dharia. I'm 36 and I started my first business in healthcare trading generic drugs at 22 while I was still studying at the Zicklin School of Business in New York City. I made some money, but with an economics degree, I couldn't keep away from Wall Street. Then moved to Reuters on the derivatives desk. Reuters sent me to India to start up the team here over a decade ago. The thrill of building and scaling up high-performance team just didn't compare with a stable job in New York. So I chucked my green card and moved to India into leadership roles. But after 12 years of MNC experience, my entrepreneurship roots started calling out and I quit as the global head of operations at Reuters. The healthcare sector in India is in a double-digit growth trajectory with plenty more to come. My co-founders and I strongly felt that solving India's healthcare needs isn't as much about importing the $1 million machines from New York, London, as about providing simple, affordable, scalable solutions to the masses. With that disruptive vision and seed funding from a marquee investor at bulge bracket Wall Street Investment Bank, I founded Soothe Healthcare with initial investment of $1.5 million.
Well, now that you've heard Sahil's story so far, let's throw it to him and let's hear about what Soothe Healthcare is all about.
Soothe Healthcare is a consumer healthcare company. We manufacture and market consumer healthcare products. My first product in the market, our flagship product, is Pari, brand of sanitary pads, where the product is endorsed by a celebrity, Saina Nehwal. We did a test launch in certain select markets. We are in Pune and Cochin. We're also now on leading e-commerce portals in India, and we are growing rapidly. I have my own manufacturing facility. We can make 225 million napkins per annum, which takes me to revenue about 80 crores. That's my capacity.
But today
we're at 2 crores right now. And
so how many states are you in?
We are in 2 cities. We did a pilot in Pune because of the demographic, lots of colleges, young girls, which is my TG actually, and Cochin, a lot of good hygiene practices.
So are you doing only direct marketing, or you're with distributors in stores?
Distributors, FMCG, traditional model.
So how many stores are you in?
We are in about 3,000 stores in the retail FMCG sector, 12 supermarkets, and all the leading e-commerce portals, and we're doing pretty good on each one of them.
So what are the challenges facing you?
The challenges facing us are which way do we lead geographical expansion? We are at a fundraising stage, Series A, and we're talking to several investors, and some of them actually challenged me and saying, why only 50 crores revenue next year? Why don't you go national and go big?
Yeah, I think we jumped 2-3 things in one, and I just sort of step a few steps back. You said 2 crores.
We're at 2 crores now.
Okay,
yes.
So any investors telling you why aren't you at more than 50 crores next year, I think you should sideline him and say, we'll meet after 5 years or 3 years and not get involved, because otherwise you're going to get into a mess. The second is understand that you're getting into a consumer-facing business where there are large multinationals and large corporations that have got large marketing budgets and a lot of distribution heft. Yes. So you're competing with that permanently. So to a certain extent, you definitely need to go at it step by step. Right. My first question to you, first as a question, would be, what according to you is your distinct advantage? We are 20 to 30% cheaper than the leading competitor. So why is yours more affordable? Because so I have scale. We choose to be able to price ourselves at the affordable place, which is 20 to 30% lower. Because, as per our survey, do you have a cost advantage versus your competition? No, they're 10 times my size, so I don't have a cost advantage. So I do have scale. I do have scale. We are one of the largest suppliers to the government. That's why we went into that space to run the machine, get the costs down. So I'm not a first timer. So we do have that supplier to the government would be more for the rural market. Yes. Okay. Yes, that's for the rural market. Right. So that will be heavily subsidized. It's subsidized. Yes. So that is actually the B2B part of your business. B2B, because the customer is not seeing your brand. Correct. That they're consuming it. It could be a white label brand for the purpose of what you care. So absolutely. So it's a good story, but it's not helping your big story. Yes. So and how much of your present business is government? About 60%. Okay, so that I think is your big challenge. Yes. So you should take your base at 80 lakhs consumer facing out of 2 crores and figure out how you're going to build from that, just to be realistic. Right. Okay. Yeah. So 94% of the people we surveyed said that they are users of sanitary napkins and they feel it's expensive. Yeah. So we know that at that age group, and they are looking for a value purchase. So this is where we position the brand and the value that way. So what is going to be your biggest investment going forward to get to scale, according to you? Media. We need to get our brand out in the public domain and be able to shout it out. I would caution it on one sense that first, if you start raising money and then you decide, now I've got the money, now I know how to spend it. The caution is once you get it right, it is a less risk-free business than many other businesses. Right. But if you get it wrong, it could be a slightly bit of a zero-sums game mostly, because you have spent all that marketing, and if it doesn't go off the shelves, it just doesn't go off the shelves. You've got a double whammy. You got zero returns for your marketing, and you got stuck inventory. So I would say that distribution and placement is as critical for you today as marketing and media. I mean, when I think Nirma took on Levers in that context, it was as much a distribution success as it was a cost success as it was a marketing success. Got it. Good luck.
If you don't get funded, give credit to ET now.
Happy to.
But anyway, let's move on to our last and final entrepreneur for this evening, and that's Hitesh Bhagia, co-founder of HomeVeda. But before I throw it to you, let's look at your backstory, which is a rather interesting one.
Hi, my name is Hitesh Bhagia. I am 30 years old. I grew up in Delhi, which is where I did my schooling. After finishing my schooling, I moved to Bombay to pursue my chemical engineering. Post my engineering, I worked with a firm called Uday India. It's an EPC firm. I was part of the cryogenics team there. I worked there briefly for about 11 months till the time I got a call from IIM Kozhikode for my MBA. It was actually those 2 years at IMK wherein I felt this tremendous need for starting up on my own. And it was around then I met Vinay and Harsh, who are my co-founders at Home Veda Media Labs.
Women prone to acne or blackheads should avoid using oil-based skin products.
We started this company because we thought that more and more people today are choosing natural stroke sustainable lifestyle solutions to manage their health. There is also this need in them to connect with and learn from experiences of other users who have probably gone through similar health issues. We started this in 2012 with an initial investment of about Rs 50 lakhs.
That was Hitesh Bhagia's backstory, and now I'm going to throw it to him to talk about Home Veda a little bit.
Sure. Health as a topic is it occupies one of the highest percentage mind shares of people across the globe. There is a tremendous need for quality health information. In fact, 1 in 5 searches on Google today are in the health space. And we at Home Veda are trying to solve exactly this need by building a social platform which simplifies the search for health information. We do this by allowing the user to consume expert-generated health content, and also by allowing him to engage with other users and experts on the platform so that he gets very relevant and meaningful suggestions. Within the health space, we are focusing in particular on the complementary stroke natural space, because majority of the conditions today are managerial in nature, like a diabetes or a high blood pressure. Hence, by focusing on content around topics like alternative medicine, diet, fitness and lifestyle solutions, we think we would be able to offer a very holistic path to good health to a lot of users. Now, I think we have about a cumulative viewership of about 55 million, about 500,000 subscribers on our content, which perhaps makes us one of the largest communities in this particular space globally. So for example, if you have diabetes, you would be someone who's very concerned about his or her diet, right?
Yes. So I'll either go on the internet, or I'll get into my medicine, or I'll go to allopath, or I'll go to homeopath.
Yeah, but you would do
so why
a lot
would I
of
come
things.
to you?
Yeah, so you will do a lot of things apart from taking medicine. So you would want to, let's say, incorporate a certain set of diet in your.
And we won't get into all that. I'm just saying, why would I come to you? I'm more interested in your product.
Correct. So I, as a content platform, would provide you these content pieces. I would allow you to expert with, let's say, other users who have diabetes and
you keep using the word content. So is this something that you're originating, or you've aggregated it from the World Wide Web?
We are creating all this content. All the IP is owned by us. So we have created content, let's say, within alternative medicine.
So who's the expert?
Expert is someone who's qualified to practice in this space.
Part of that, is it social? Meaning, am I getting to know 40 other diabetic people who different experiences?
Absolutely. So that's the next step for us.
It's not there yet, but that's
not there yet.
Okay.
That's the next step for us, that we want to drive this towards a community approach, wherein people, let's say, who are interested
they can
in
share their
weight loss.
experiences,
Yes.
because part of this, on some of these ailments at least, they can relate to, and it's not for empathy or sympathy, it's more for experience.
Absolutely.
So now let's get to what's troubling you, or what's challenging you, or what difficulties you're facing.
We are in a stage where we are hoping to now scale up, and we think we are ready for our next leap of growth, which means that we will have to get on board a lot of senior resources in the organization. Now, to begin with, let's say a CTO for our business, because we want to invest heavily in technology. Now, these are senior level resources. How do you, and since you've ran huge organizations, how do you maintain, or you strike a balance between an organization which has a distributed decision-making process vis-a-vis an organization which has a centralized decision-making process, which is essentially a startup, right? How do you ensure that when the CTO comes in?
Well, you'd be surprised how many large organizations have a centralized decision-making process also. You'd be amazed at it, but carry on.
Yeah, so how do you ensure that this new guy who comes in, how do we take into account his ideas about our platform vis-a-vis, let's say, an existing set of ideas?
Are you speaking specifically for a CTO, or you're saying generally?
We're starting up with the CTO right
now. So a little bit what I saw in your AV, I got the sense that there are co-founders.
Yes.
So you're fortunate and blessed enough to have 3 co-founders.
Right.
Obviously, and from what I understand, are they in the same age group, or they're older than you, younger than you?
Yeah. So I'm 30, they're 40, but. Yeah,
so good. So there's a lot of experience already within the organization.
Absolutely.
So I think you should look at that as a huge asset, because not many organizations are fortunate, and startups to start with co-founders. And co-founders with a lot of brevity and experience. Otherwise, they start both of 2 college friends, college dorm, and whatever else.
Right.
So that's a good advantage to you. It also gives a very good perception from the outside that there's a stable management team out here at the founder level. I think it's going to be a combination of fine-tuning your product, that you are reasonably well-funded as yours, because it is a situation where people will want to see longevity. What is your revenue model?
So it could be an expert consulting a user, a one-on-one consultation which happens online. It could be an expert selling across a product in the natural space.
And in these cases, you charge the consumer, you charge the expert.
So in these cases, we charge the consumer who pays us to
you
interact
will
with the
charge the
expert.
consumer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas we act as a platform which facilitates this interaction. So right now we are selling.
And am I
only
going to get
information.
healed, or am I just going to get wiser by coming to you? Because I still haven't. That's one thing I need to get answered. That
So assumption is you get healed because this is
no,
all.
not assumption. You are right in the spot. So I need to know from you: am I getting healed when I come to you, or am I just getting to be a lot more knowledgeable?
No, you're getting healed when you come to us, and you're also getting knowledgeable
Okay.
when you
And
consume a lot of content.
is that what your consumer is facing right now? Is that what he's feeling? Because maybe I think you need to go out there, not going out there, you can do it online, but you can, I think you need a strong dipstick also of having been around for this time. What is the people valuing your content to be? Why are they coming to you for more? Let's do an in-depth research on that, because your revenue model should kick in now. You're in the health sector. People are willing to pay good money for health advice. It's one of those things that has no concept of disposable income, and I won't do it. They will pay for it. The longer you hold on to this free content base, the longer you're stretching your destiny.
Right. I hope that satisfies all your questions, right? And because of paucity of time, I have to move on. On that note, we'll be right back.
Oh dear. Okay.
Let's just move on to the audience here, who have been eagerly waiting to ask questions to Ronnie. I believe Amit Das from the audience has a question for Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie.
Hi.
Quick question. Over the last couple of years, we've seen that the cost of acquiring customers, especially in the B2C online space, it has gone through the roof. Now, a bootstrapping startup, what's your advice to them in the early stages to kind of test out their idea or the viability of it without really running a huge cost?
See, I think firstly we need to understand that the cost has not gone out of whack. It's just unfathomable from that point of view. So I think the first aspect is it's not efficient. Nobody's measured it. If private equity would not seduce people to spend more of their money today, you'd find that actually you'd find a lot more model. So this whole model, while I'm extremely bullish about the e-commerce sector, which I think you're referring to, which is where really the most of the advertising dollars are spent, because the consumers have now really started to spend. So that's a great story of it. I think the bad story of it is that there's just too much of equity money that has come in too soon to people that haven't had the discipline to build businesses with a little bit more of a stronger foundation. I'm absolutely one where you need to go out and market and acquire those customers. But when the rationale is so off, I think it's setting a completely wrong precedent in a country like India. So I would say continue with the bootstrapping mode. India is a country with massive opportunities in multiple sectors, but we can't run before we can walk.
You've taken a big step into the world of digital media. Digital media is often compared to traditional media, and the metrics of comparison are often a case of apples and oranges. Do you think we have an immature understanding of reach and ROI on digital?
Well, firstly, I think when you're looking at digital, you can't compare it back to the conventional media, and I think that's the fallacy, because otherwise most conventional media companies have not been able to migrate to the digital media for that very reason. But always, my belief from the 20 years is that it's always the content that comes first, the creativity that leads the thought process, and everything else follows. I think from a monetization point of view in India, yes, we have a culture for the last 3 decades where people are not used or disciplined to paying for content. So it'll always be a continuing challenge. But digital is not a segment that can grow only through advertising revenues, although I think it will over the next 3 to 4 years.
Well, thank you so much. I hope that Ronnie has addressed all your questions, and thank you so much, gentlemen. But Ronnie, I just want you to share some thoughts on how to start up, how to be your own boss, and some closing thoughts for all of us to take back home.
The one thing I would like to say on this show is that my theater days, for example, were one of the most strongest influential days for my life, because it was a hobby, but I was passionate about it. But what it taught me is a level of confidence and a level of communication that then led to clarity of thought, that then led to a conviction enough for me to say, whatever happens, I'm going to keep going for it. And therefore, my perception of failure was always a temporary setback, but never failure. And I think that's the snowballing effect for me. That was my personal experience. So each one is to find their own sur for what gets them going. Because entrepreneurship, as I've said very often, is not an outing. It is a full journey. You can't make a deal with yourself and just say, I'll do it for 2 years, check it out. If not, I'll go back to something else. That's a recipe for disaster, because you're setting yourself up for failure.
But Ronnie, is that the trend you see in India at least?
The trend in India at this point in time has to move forward. I think the sense of a strong fear for failure is very omnipresent with the youth. And second, as you said, and many of you as first generation entrepreneurs, you need family support. And people need to look up to you and say, wow, you're being an entrepreneur. Not, oh God, you became an entrepreneur means you didn't get a good job. So I think those are things that have to change.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Starting Up with Ronnie Screwvala. Hope you enjoyed the show. Next week, we'll be back with 3 more dynamic entrepreneurs, a fresh set of problems, and of course, the man himself, Ronnie Screwvala. I'll see you next week. And until then, chew on this. And as they say, it's never too late to go out there and start up.